The forgotten women of the Bible. Discover their powerful legacies. Have you ever stopped to think about the hidden stories in the Bible, those that rarely take center stage but carry powerful lessons? Within the pages of Scripture, there are women whose actions shaped destinies, defied norms, and left profound marks, even though they are often forgotten. Who were Huldah, Jael, and Rizpah, and why do their stories still resonate today? Huldah, a prophetess whose wisdom guided kings. Jael, a woman of astonishing courage who changed the course of a battle. And Rizpah, whose grief became a symbol of resilience and justice. These figures are not just characters from a distant past, but living examples of strength, faith, and determination that continue to inspire. By exploring these stories, you will discover how they challenged the expectations of their times and left legacies that echo to this day. More than historical accounts, their narratives offer profound reflections on leadership, sacrifice, and the power of a voice that refuses to be silenced. Prepare to dive into a fascinating world where each revealed detail brings new perspectives on the role of women in sacred history. These forgotten stories not only expand our understanding of the biblical text, but also invite us to reflect on our own role in building a more just and equal world. The Bible, one of the most influential texts in history, contains narratives that have shaped cultures, values, and traditions for centuries. However, the stories of women who played crucial roles are often forgotten or underestimated. Figures like Huldah, Jael, and Rizpah are examples of women who, despite their significant contributions, remain on the margins of theological and historical discussions. Huldah, a prophetess briefly mentioned in the Old Testament, played a decisive role in authenticating the Book of the Law, influencing religious reforms in Israel. Jael, on the other hand, was an ordinary woman who, in an act of bravery, defeated an enemy leader, altering the course of a conflict. Rizpah demonstrated resilient maternal love and moral strength by fighting for the dignity of her children, even in tragic circumstances. Though short, these stories reveal the depth and complexity of women's roles in the biblical narrative. The importance of this topic lies in rescuing the voices of women who defied norms and shaped historical events. These women are often overlooked due to the patriarchal reading of sacred texts. Understanding their stories helps broaden our perspective on the feminine impact in religious and cultural history. Studying these forgotten figures is essential to promote a more inclusive interpretation of the Bible, recognizing the diversity of experiences and contributions present in its pages. Exploring stories like those of Huldah, Jael, and Rizpah helps us appreciate forgotten yet transformative female roles. We want to hear your reflections. Leave a comment, share your ideas, and subscribe to follow more content like this. Your participation enriches the dialogue and strengthens the journey of collective learning. Let us give voice together to stories that deserve to be remembered. Understanding the roles of women like Huldah, Jael, and Rizpah in the Bible requires a careful analysis of their historical and cultural contexts. These often forgotten figures demonstrate courage, wisdom, and impact during crucial moments. Recognizing their contributions is essential to broaden our vision of the feminine role in Scripture. Huldah, a prophetess mentioned in 2 Kings 22, was consulted by leaders during a time of spiritual crisis. Her story highlights the importance of listening to women in positions of spiritual leadership. A practical application would be encouraging the study of female voices in religious communities, fostering discussions on how their perspectives can enrich collective faith. Jael, in Judges 4, played a decisive role in defeating Sisera, an oppressive commander. Her courage and strategic action show how women can be agents of change in adverse situations. This inspires reflections on how to identify opportunities to act with determination in critical moments of our lives. Rizpah in 2 Samuel 21 illustrates perseverance and love as she protected the bodies of her sons. Her story challenges us to fight for justice and dignity even in difficult circumstances. An example would be supporting causes that defend human rights, especially for vulnerable groups. Exploring these stories invites us to value the diversity of feminine roles in the Bible and apply their lessons in modern contexts, promoting equality and respect. Throughout history, biblical narratives have often highlighted male figures, leaving many women in the background despite their decisive contributions. A crucial issue demanding attention is the underestimation of figures like Huldah, Jael, and Rizpah, whose actions shaped significant events but remain obscured by tradition. This neglect not only distorts historical understanding, but also perpetuates the exclusion of feminine voices in theological and cultural debates. Huldah, for example, was a prophetess consulted during King Josiah's reign, whose interpretation of the law led to a spiritual reform in Israel. Yet her story is often ignored, while contemporary male figures receive greater recognition. Jael, in turn, played a decisive role by defeating Sisera, commander of an oppressive army, demonstrating courage and strategy at a critical moment. Rizpah, in an act of resistance and mourning, defied social norms by protecting the bodies of her sons, drawing attention to injustice and forcing a response from King David. The urgency of revisiting these stories lies in their impact on building a more inclusive vision of faith and history. Ignoring these women perpetuates an incomplete narrative that underestimates the feminine role in transforming societies. Recognizing their contributions is essential to correct omissions and inspire new generations to value the strength and leadership of women. Female characters in the Bible often played significant roles but were relegated to brief mentions or forgotten throughout history. Huldah, Jael, and Rizpah are examples of women whose actions had profound impacts despite their limited visibility in biblical texts. Huldah, a prophetess mentioned in 2 Kings 22:14-20, played a pivotal role during King Josiah's reign. When the Book of the Law was discovered in the temple, Huldah was consulted to interpret its message. Her spiritual authority was recognized in an era dominated by male figures, demonstrating the central role of women in transmitting God's will. Her contribution was instrumental in guiding Josiah's religious reforms during a period of national crisis, proving that women's leadership in spiritual and political matters was both valued and impactful. Jael, on the other hand, emerges as an unexpected heroine in the Book of Judges, Judges 4:17-22. During a conflict between Israel and the Canaanites, she killed Sisera, the enemy commander, ensuring Israel's victory. Jael's courage and initiative defied traditional gender stereotypes, showing that women could be agents of political and military transformation. Though her actions were controversial, they are celebrated in Deborah's song, Judges 5, as a divine act of deliverance, highlighting her bravery and strategic thinking. Rizpah, highlighted in 2 Samuel 21:8-14, is remembered for her resilience and silent protest. After her sons were executed, she guarded their bodies, protecting them from scavengers as a form of protest against the injustice they suffered. Her unwavering vigil moved King David to provide a proper burial for the victims, underscoring the impact of her perseverance. Rizpah's actions transformed her grief into a powerful statement of justice and dignity, demonstrating a mother's strength in the face of societal neglect. These stories reveal that despite often being overlooked, women like Huldah, Jael, and Rizpah shaped significant historical and spiritual events. They challenged cultural expectations, acting as powerful agents of change and demonstrating that the feminine impact on biblical narratives runs deep, even when relegated to the margins. In implementing new ideas or technologies, it is essential to consider common challenges and strategies for overcoming them. For instance, 1. Resistance to change. One of the first barriers can be employees' fear of the unknown or the perception that their skills may become obsolete. A practical solution would be to provide personalized training and foster an environment where questions and doubts are encouraged. This approach promotes trust, engagement, and smoother transitions. 2. Limited resources. Small organizations or teams often face budget and time constraints. For example, a small business trying to adopt sustainable practices may struggle with initial costs. A viable solution would be to implement gradual changes, such as reducing paper use or switching to energy-efficient lighting before committing to larger initiatives. 3. Effective communication. Misunderstandings in collaborative projects can lead to delays or wasted effort. In a remote team relying on digital tools, regular meetings and clear task delegation platforms ensure alignment and transparency, preventing errors. 4. Measuring results. Without clear metrics, it is difficult to evaluate success. For example, a school introducing innovative teaching methods can conduct periodic assessments to refine strategies, ensuring objectives are effectively met. Hulda's story, as found in 2 Kings 22, highlights her role in authenticating the Book of the Law, an act that guided King Josiah's sweeping religious reforms. Her authority and wisdom demonstrate that women were consulted in moments of national spiritual crisis, contrary to assumptions of their passivity. Jael in Judges 4 exemplifies courage and decisiveness. Her actions, defeating Sisera, the commander of the oppressive Canaanite army, secured Israel's freedom. Despite the violent and unconventional nature of her act, Jael is praised as an instrument of divine deliverance, challenging cultural norms about female passivity in times of war. Rizpah, in 2 Samuel 21, transforms personal grief into a public outcry for justice. Her silent vigil over the bodies of her sons, executed unjustly, forced King David to take action, ensuring they received a dignified burial. Rizpah's story highlights the power of persistence and protest, emphasizing how marginalized voices can enact societal change. These women, though briefly mentioned, wielded extraordinary influence, often at pivotal moments in Israel's history. Theologians like Walter Brueggemann have emphasized that figures such as Hulda demonstrate women's leadership in interpreting and applying divine instruction, a role often overshadowed by patriarchal readings of Scripture. Rediscovering these stories is vital for fostering a more inclusive understanding of biblical history, showcasing the diverse roles women played in shaping spiritual and societal outcomes. By bringing their narratives to the forefront, we challenge incomplete historical interpretations and inspire new generations to value the strength, faith, and leadership of women. The stories of Hulda, Jael, and Rizpah provide compelling examples of courage, wisdom, and perseverance, revealing the profound role women played in shaping both history and spirituality. Though often relegated to the margins of biblical texts, their contributions challenge traditional assumptions about leadership, justice, and action. Hulda appears in 2 Kings 22:14-20 during the reign of King Josiah, a period of significant spiritual and national crisis. When the long-lost Book of the Law was discovered in the temple, it was Hulda whom the king's advisors consulted, not a prominent male prophet, but a woman whose spiritual authority was widely acknowledged. Her interpretation of the book's message confirmed God's judgment upon Israel for its disobedience, but also affirmed Josiah's reform as a path toward temporary restoration. Hulda's role in guiding Israel's spiritual renewal demonstrates her profound wisdom and leadership. Scholars, such as theologian Walter Brueggemann, highlight her story as evidence that women held positions of influence and were trusted voices of divine revelation. Jael's story, told in Judges 4:17-22, presents her as an unexpected heroine during Israel's conflict with the Canaanites. After Sisera, the commander of the enemy army, sought refuge in Jael's tent, she seized the opportunity to act decisively. By driving a tent peg through his skull, Jael ensured Israel's victory, fulfilling Deborah's prophecy, Judges 4:9, and becoming a celebrated figure in the Song of Deborah, Judges 5:24-27. While Jael's actions were unconventional and even shocking, scholars like Tikva Fry-Makensky interpret her story as a symbol of decisive action in oppressive circumstances. Jael defied expectations of passivity attributed to women, proving that courage and strategic thinking are not bound by gender. Rizpah's narrative in 2 Samuel 21:8-14 is one of profound grief turned into action. After her sons were unjustly executed as part of a political agreement, Rizpah remained vigilantly by their bodies for months, protecting them from scavengers. Her silent protest eventually moved King David to honor her sons with a proper burial, bringing closure to a tragic episode. Phyllis Tribal, a leading feminist biblical scholar, describes Rizpah as a figure of moral strength who challenges structures of power through persistence and love. Her story highlights the impact of protest, even when quiet and unacknowledged, demonstrating that resilience in the face of injustice can bring about transformative change. The lives of Huldah, Jael, and Rizpah reveal that women's roles in biblical history were far from insignificant. Their courage, wisdom, and perseverance reflect agency in contexts often dominated by male figures. Whether through interpreting divine will, taking decisive action in war, or advocating for justice, these women demonstrate that leadership transcends societal expectations. Scholars emphasize the importance of recognizing such figures to gain a fuller understanding of biblical narratives. Their stories inspire contemporary discussions about leadership, justice, and equality. These women serve as reminders that profound impact often comes from unexpected places, and that agency is not confined to traditional power structures. 1. Spiritual leadership. Like Huldah, we can seek wisdom and courage to guide others during times of uncertainty. Her story reminds us that leadership stems from knowledge, character, and purpose, not societal roles. 2. Decisive action. Jael teaches us the power of boldness and resourcefulness when opportunities for justice arise. Even small actions can have profound consequences. 3. Perseverance for justice. Rizpah's vigil challenges us to advocate for those who are voiceless or ignored. Her resilience proves that persistence in the face of injustice can lead to meaningful change. Encouraging the study of these lesser-known biblical women can spark conversations about equality, leadership, and the transformative power of courage. Their narratives invite us to recognize and celebrate contributions that may otherwise remain overlooked. Huldah, Jael, and Rizpah remind us that true impact often lies in unexpected places and voices. Their courage, wisdom, and persistence transcend the boundaries of their time, inspiring us to embrace purpose, justice, and leadership in our own lives. By rediscovering these stories, we honor the transformative power of women in history and spirituality, ensuring that their legacies continue to shape generations. Let us look beyond the obvious, listening for voices once silenced and learning from their strength. The stories of Huldah, Jael, and Rizpah challenge us to act with faith, boldness, and resolve, building a legacy that endures, even when the world does not immediately take notice.